the English Fens, a part of the country often called the Holy Land of the English. Partly because of the church spires that seem to soar out of the villages, but in part too because of a strong sense of identity. You'll find some of the strongest anti-European sentiment in the land along these marshlands and waterways.
This is how I look at it, Europe.
They're only lining their own pockets, ain't they?
Meet Ken Bagley and Roy Brewster, the chairman and vice chairman, respectively, of the Boston Fishermen's Association. Boston, Lincolnshire, that is.
Well, what's the problem?
When they took us into it, we went into trade. And that was all. Now we're ruled by them.
They say membership in the EU has been eroding British sovereignty for 43 years now, and along with it, control of the fisheries.
He has tied it, Roy, that's one good thing.
Brussels decides how much member states can fish and where, based on conservation needs.
We're not even in charge of our own destinies anymore. We've got people in offices telling us where to go chuck our nets in. Well, that's not the way.
It's not the only gripe they have with the EU.
I told you earlier, our population in our little town has doubled because of Europe, because they're just coming in.
By them, he means East European immigrants, mostly Poles, who started arriving in large numbers after the EU expanded to the east back in 2004. They've made their mark on the high street. Just take a look at the supermarket shelves. There's even a Polish-language newspaper.
It's put a strain on our doctors.
Local councillor Yvonne Stevens says it's a strain on resources, and she doesn't much like it. Or them, it would seem.
Let's have people coming in who have a specific qualification that we need. Not just people that are going to stand around drinking, defecating, urinating in our town.
Stevens belongs to the UK Independence Party, or UKIP, born in the 1990s of opposition to the Maastricht Treaty enshrining European integration. UKIP also plays on anti-immigrant sentiment, and immigration is one of the key issues driving those who want Britain out of the EU.
When you think about your own personal identity, think of yourself as a European?
I'm English. I'm English.
Not British?
I'm English.
Karol Sokolowski is attending Mass at St. Mary's Catholic Church with his son, who's just had his first communion. They arrived from Poland 6 years ago. Sokolowski working in packaging plants before opening his own restaurant. Critics say the Polish workers undercut wages, but Sokolowski disagrees, saying if anything, new Eastern blood has helped save the town.
Boston was quite old town, and I mean, people was old also, so the town was actually dying.
The same can be said of the impact on the Catholic Church here. St. Mary's added a permanent Polish chaplain 3 years ago to service the growing numbers. More people now attending Mass in Polish than in English.
Irish immigration revived and renewed the Catholic Church in England. That's what the East Europeans are doing now.
Father Alex Adkin says it's a positive influence for the country as well. He's an ardent believer in the European Union, saying Britain must stop trying to live in the past.
I think there is a great underlying insecurity which has resulted from the loss of a sense of identity in post-imperial days. And I think we are, in a sense, though we won't admit it, uncertain as to quite who we are and where we fit into the world.
The referendum is forcing people here to at least examine the question, do old notions still fit, or has Britain's sense of self already evolved? Another country, another coastline, this one waking from slumber. The beach soon to be filled with the sights and sounds of holidaymakers. One of the main tenets of the European Union is the freedom of its citizens to step from one member state to another, to choose where they live and work. That's what galls some of the Brits who want out of the EU. But it goes 28 ways, including this way, Brits to southern Spain.
This is the reflex.
An estimated 2 million Brits live abroad in Europe, and a whopping 700,000 of them are here in Spain, leaving their brawlies behind to follow the sun and find umbrellas of a different kind.
A great night out in Marbella is to be had. You can get fantastic live music and all the football you can deal with.
In some parts of the Costa del Sol, you could be forgiven for thinking you were still in the UK. The beer, the breakfasts, and of course the footy. Johnny Langton is Johnny of Johnny's Bar, catering to British tourists and expats for 22 years now. But only one of his 3 children was actually born in Spain, and he's not sure what a Brexit would mean for a son wanting to work here.
It's going to be the same as a Canadian or American. It's not going to be a part of the EU. And it's a big shock for us.
Langton can't vote in the referendum because he's been away from the UK for more than 15 years. But there are plenty of people who can and will because they're worried.
One minute you're living in Spain and you're European, and then after the election, you're non-status.
We'd be very unhappy to leave it, whether we lived in England or not. We're part of Europe.
The British Society of Ben Almadina, not far from Malaga, has one of the best views of the Mediterranean going. It dates back to the days of General Franco, but a Brexit could well affect its membership.
But what everybody agrees is we're not being given enough information.
EU citizens are entitled to social security and health care in the EU countries they've chosen to live in. That could change if Britain leaves. Sandra Simpson is the club secretary.
Life could get very difficult for us, whether the Spanish still want to accept us.
Her husband John, the president, says there are a lot of unknowns for expats.
When you hear Boris Johnson, you don't know whether he knows what is going to happen if the Brexit comes, but you listen to David Cameron and it's the very same.
Barry Raven remembers when his parents started coming to Spain in the 60s, how hard it was to transfer money.
You had to get permission from the Bank of England. All that went away when England joined the European Union.
Security is a huge thing here. If we stay together, we have a chance as Europeans.
So what do other Europeans make of Britain's ever-present angst about the EU? We touched base with a group of senior Spaniards getting in touch with their inner flamenco dancers, including Rafael Barca.
They only will drive on the left side. That's very English. So they can't change that. But it's good to be together in Europe.
And why not share ownership of and easy access to a continent that's turned out flamenco and the likes of Pablo Picasso, whose hometown of Malaga draws plenty of tourists?
Can you take one with you?
Yeah. Spaniards are quite happy to lap up what Britain has to offer too. It's not just the expats who are worried about a Brexit.
Some Spaniards will tell you they've also got a lot to lose. Young people in particular would see it as a door closing. About 45% of young Spaniards under the age of 25 are unemployed.
Young Spaniards looking for work or hoping to study on EU-funded scholarships often head to London. Law students at the University of Malaga say Brexit would hurt.
Because we are one of the most weak countries in the European Union.
I don't know, it's like we are losing a part of us.
There are other, deeper worries. Britain isn't the only EU country where people are questioning membership in the club, unhappy with the rattle and hum of an unwieldy bureaucracy in Brussels. There are real fears of contagion, that if Britain decides to withdraw and stand alone, there could be more referendums to come, and with them, the possible unraveling of the European dream. Margaret Evans, CBC News, on the Costa del Sol.